The sky turned black with alien ships. Huge metal monsters floated down from space like dark clouds covering the sun. The people of Seoul looked up and screamed. Children cried. Adults ran in all directions trying to find safety, but there was nowhere to go. Kim Tae-ho sat behind a broken wall holding his rifle tight. He was just 25 years old, but he had been shooting targets since he was a kid. His father taught him how to hold a gun steady and breathe slow before pulling the trigger. Now all those years of practice would either save his life or get him killed. The aliens were big, really big. They stood 3 meters tall like giant lizards walking on 2 legs. Their skin looked like metal armor, and their eyes glowed red in the smoke. When they opened their mouths, you could see rows of sharp teeth. Their claws could cut through steel doors like paper. Tae-ho watched through his scope as more alien ships landed in the middle of the city. The ground shook every time one touched down. Dust and rocks flew everywhere. The aliens inside came out slowly like they owned the place. They did own it now. The Korean army had tried to fight back for 6 hours. Tanks shot at the alien ships, but their bullets just bounced off like raindrops. Fighter jets tried to attack from the sky, but alien weapons turned them into fire and smoke before they could get close. The president had already fled to the mountains with his important friends. Dr. Park Soo-jin ran past Tae-ho's hiding spot carrying a small computer. She was a scientist who studied space signals. 2 weeks ago, she had decoded alien messages that said they were coming to take Earth. Nobody believed her then. Now everyone was dead or running. Soo-jin stopped and crawled behind the wall next to Tae-ho. Her face was covered in dirt and her clothes were torn. She showed him the computer screen with strange alien writing on it. "These monsters are not just here to kill us," she whispered. "They want to use our planet as a farm. They will keep some humans alive like cattle to make more humans. The rest will be food for their armies." Tae-ho looked at the alien words on the screen. He could not read them, but he understood what they meant. Earth was finished unless someone did something impossible. The biggest alien ship landed right in front of them. It was the size of a football stadium and covered in weapons that could destroy whole cities. A door opened in the side and out walked the alien commander. This one was different from the others. It wore fancy armor covered in gold and jewels. The other aliens bowed when it passed them. Soo-jin grabbed Tae-ho's arm. "That one is their war leader," she said. "I heard them call it Vextar on the radio messages. It has conquered 17 planets before Earth. If that thing dies, maybe the others will stop fighting." Tae-ho looked through his scope at the alien commander. It was standing on top of a pile of broken cars giving orders to its soldiers. The distance was exactly 3 kilometers. No human had ever made a shot that far before. The wind was blowing smoke and ash through the air. The target was moving around talking to other aliens, but Tae-ho noticed something important. Every few minutes the alien commander would stop talking and stand perfectly still. It would turn off some kind of energy shield around its body. This lasted for about 40 seconds each time. During those moments it was not protected. His rifle was not a normal army gun. Scientists had worked on it for months after Soo-jin decoded the first alien messages. The bullets were made from special metal that could cut through alien armor. The scope could see through smoke and calculate wind speed automatically. Tae-ho had 1 bullet left. 1 chance to change everything. He thought about his little sister who was probably dead somewhere in the burning city. He thought about his mother who had taught him to never give up even when things looked impossible. He thought about all the people hiding in basements and tunnels hoping someone would save them. The alien commander raised its clawed hand to speak to its army again. In 30 seconds, it would lower its guard and become vulnerable. Tae-ho put his finger on the trigger and started counting down. 29, 28, 27. His heart was beating so loud he was sure the aliens could hear it. The whole world seemed to stop moving. No birds were singing. No cars were driving. Even the fires burning in the city seemed to get quieter. It was just Tae-ho and his rifle, and 3 kilometers of empty air between him and the monster that wanted to destroy humanity. 15 seconds left. The alien commander was getting ready to lower its shield. Other aliens were backing away to give their leader space for the ceremony. Soo-jin held her breath beside him. Somewhere in the distance, another human city was being destroyed, but Taiho could not think about that now. 10 seconds. 9. 8. The alien was starting to move its hand toward the shield controls. 7. 6. 5. Taiho stopped breathing completely. 4. 3. 2. The shield flickered and went dark. 1. Taiho squeezed the trigger exactly the way his father had taught him 20 years ago. Slow and steady, like squeezing water from a sponge. The rifle kicked back against his shoulder with a sound like thunder rolling across the mountains. The special bullet flew through the smoky air faster than sound itself. 3 kilometers away, the alien commander was telling its soldiers how easy it had been to conquer Earth. Humans were weak and stupid, it said. Their weapons were toys compared to alien technology. Soon every human city would be burning, and the survivors would learn to obey their new masters or die. The bullet took 4 seconds to travel from Taiho's position to the target. 4 seconds that felt like 4 hours. Through his scope, he watched the projectile streak through clouds of smoke and ash. The special metal tip was glowing hot from cutting through the air so fast. Other alien soldiers were standing around their commander listening to the victory speech. They had taken off their helmets to celebrate. Some were laughing at pictures of destroyed human buildings on their portable computers. They thought the war was already over. They thought humans were too primitive to fight back. The experimental bullet hit the alien commander right in the gap between its helmet and chest armor. The impact sounded like a hammer hitting a steel drum. The creature stumbled backward with shock and surprise in its glowing red eyes. It looked down at the small hole in its armor that was starting to leak green blood. For a moment, everything was quiet. The other aliens stared at their leader, trying to understand what had just happened. The commander touched the wound with its clawed fingers. Green liquid was running down its chest plate. It opened its mouth to speak, but only made a choking sound. Then the poison inside the bullet started working. Human scientists had designed it specifically to kill aliens. The chemical was harmless to people but deadly to creatures with alien blood. The commander fell to its knees. Its red eyes started getting dim. Its breathing became fast and shallow. Panic spread through the alien ranks like fire through dry grass. Soldiers who had been celebrating victory 30 seconds ago were now screaming in their strange language. Some ran toward their fallen leader. Others started scanning the nearby buildings with their weapons looking for the shooter. Dr. Su Jin grabbed her computer and started recording everything. "This is proof," she whispered excitedly. "Proof that we can kill them. The bullet worked exactly like we hoped it would. Now we have to get this information to other human fighters before the aliens find us." Taiho was already packing up his rifle. The shot had revealed their position to enemy sensors. Red laser beams were starting to sweep across their building looking for heat signatures. In less than 2 minutes, alien soldiers would be breaking down their door. But something amazing was happening on the battlefield below them. The alien commander was dying in front of hundreds of its own troops. The creature that had conquered 17 planets was being killed by one human with 1 bullet from 3 kilometers away. Word of this impossible shot would spread across the galaxy. Lee Do-hyun came running up the stairs with his radio crackling with voices. Every human fighter in the city had heard the gunshot, he said breathlessly. "Our people are asking if the rumors are true. Did someone really kill an alien commander? Are we finally fighting back?" Taiho looked through his scope one more time. The alien leader was face down on the concrete surrounded by its panicking soldiers. Green blood was spreading in a pool around the body. The creature that had seemed invincible was now just another casualty of war. But this death was different. This was not just one alien soldier killed by a lucky shot. This was their supreme commander destroyed by human skill and determination. Every alien in the galaxy would hear about this moment. Every enslaved planet would know that their oppressors could be defeated. Choi Min-ho appeared at the window with ammunition and supplies. "The extraction point is compromised," he reported. "Enemy patrols are surrounding the building. We have maybe 10 minutes before they break through our defenses. But the whole resistance network is talking about your shot. People who had given up are picking up weapons again." Through the smoke and fire of the burning city, Taiho could see other flashes of gunfire. Human fighters were attacking alien positions that had seemed impossible to assault just an hour ago. The death of one enemy commander had given thousands of people hope again. Sometimes one moment can change the course of history. The alien soldiers below were loading their dead commander onto a transport ship, but they were moving differently now, carefully, looking over their shoulders, checking for snipers on every rooftop. The hunters had become the hunted with a single, perfectly placed bullet. Vextar had been born to conquer worlds. For 50 years he had led alien armies across the galaxy, destroying any species that refused to surrender. His claws had personally killed over 10,000 enemies. His ships had burned 100 cities to ash. Fear of his name made entire planets submit without fighting. Earth was supposed to be easy. The humans had primitive weapons and no experience with real warfare. Their leaders were cowards who abandoned their people at the first sign of trouble. Their armies fell apart when faced with superior technology. This conquest should have been finished in days, not weeks. Standing among the ruins of Sol, Vextar felt the familiar satisfaction of another victory. His tactical computers showed human military units retreating in all directions. Civilian populations were hiding in basements and caves. The few remaining government officials were broadcasting surrender messages from secret bunkers. The Warlord deactivated his personal shield as tradition demanded during victory ceremonies. This ancient ritual showed courage and dominance to his troops. It proved that resistance was so completely crushed that defensive measures were unnecessary. His soldiers would remember this moment and tell stories about it for generations. But Vextar had made a fatal mistake. He had underestimated human adaptability and stubbornness. While his forces celebrated inevitable triumph, small groups of humans were still fighting with increasing skill. They studied alien tactics, learned weak points, and refused to accept defeat, despite impossible odds. The experimental bullet struck him in the exact spot where his armor was weakest. The impact felt like being hit by a speeding vehicle. Pain shot through his body in ways he had never experienced before. The small projectile had penetrated deeper than any human weapon should have been able to reach. Green blood began flowing from the wound. Vextar tried to activate his medical systems, but something was wrong with his armor computers. His vision started getting blurry around the edges. His legs felt weak and unsteady. The poison was spreading through his bloodstream faster than his immune system could fight it. Around him, alien soldiers were shouting orders and scanning for threats. Security teams were deploying to surrounding buildings while medics rushed forward with emergency equipment. But their scanners could not detect the sniper position 3 kilometers away. The shot had come from an impossible distance using primitive, ballistic technology. Vextar fell to his knees as the human poison attacked his nervous system. His claws scratched uselessly at the concrete, trying to maintain balance. The creature who had terrorized 17 star systems was being defeated by chemicals designed in a human laboratory. The irony would have been amusing if he was not dying. His aide commander Kixlan was screaming into a communication device demanding immediate medical evacuation. But the nearest hospital ship was 30 minutes away, and Vextar could feel his heart starting to slow down. The humans had created something specifically designed to kill his species, and it was working perfectly. Through failing eyesight, Vextar saw his troops staring at him in shock and disbelief. These soldiers had followed him across the galaxy, believing he was invincible. They had watched him survive direct hits from plasma cannons and energy weapons. Now he was being killed by one bullet from a species they considered primitive animals. The Warlord tried to speak to his followers one last time, but only managed a wet, gurgling sound. Foam was coming from his mouth mixed with green blood. His red eyes were getting dim as oxygen stopped flowing to his brain. The poison had shut down his respiratory system completely. Vextar fell forward onto the broken pavement with a sound like a tree falling in the forest. His fancy armor scraped against concrete, and sparks flew from damaged circuits. The creature, that had conquered more worlds than any other alien in history, was now just another corpse on a battlefield. But even in death, Vextar had accomplished something important. His assassination proved to every species in the galaxy that the Keth Empire was not invincible. One human with one rifle had done what entire star fleets had failed to achieve. The shot heard across 3 kilometers had just changed the balance of power in the universe. The news traveled faster than light through alien communication networks. Warlord Vextar was dead. killed by a human sniper using primitive projectile weapons. The message repeated on every frequency as commanders tried to understand how such a thing was possible. Their greatest war leader had fallen to a species they considered barely intelligent animals. On 17 conquered worlds, enslaved populations whispered about the impossible shot. In secret meetings held in hidden caves and abandoned buildings, resistance fighters shared the story of one human who had killed their most feared oppressor. Children who had grown up under alien occupation heard for the first time that their enemies could be defeated. Commander Kixlan stood over his dead leader's body trying to process what had happened. Vextar had survived battles against advanced civilizations with energy weapons and orbital bombardments. He had walked through nuclear explosions and laughed at laser attacks. Now he was dead from a single bullet fired by a primitive human soldier. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Alien troops who had felt invincible that morning were now looking nervously at every human building. Officers who had walked openly through conquered cities were demanding additional security. The entire invasion force was experiencing something they had never felt before. Fear. Emergency protocols activated across the Keth Empire as news of the assassination spread. High-ranking officials were ordered into secure bunkers while their bodyguards tripled security measures. Supply convoys that had traveled without escorts now required full military protection. The death of one commander had changed everything, but the humans were just getting started. Dr. Sujin broadcast the alien communication intercepts, showing that their invasion plan was already falling apart. Different alien commanders were arguing about who should take Vextar's place. Some wanted to retreat and regroup. Others demanded immediate revenge against all human populations. In hidden bunkers, around the world, human scientists worked frantically to produce more of the special ammunition that had killed the alien commander. The formula was complex and required rare materials, but every bullet represented hope. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had weapons that could actually hurt their enemies. Tejo and his squad fought their way through the city streets as alien patrols searched desperately for the sniper who had killed their leader. But something had changed in the urban battlefield. Other human fighters were emerging from hiding to attack alien positions. The impossible shot had reminded everyone that their enemies could bleed and die like any living creature. Radio networks buzzed with reports of successful human attacks on alien installations. A transport ship had been destroyed by rockets. Command post had been overrun by soldiers using the new ammunition. An alien general had been killed by another sniper using Tejo's technique. The resistance was spreading like wildfire. The aliens responded with increased brutality, hoping to crush human morale through fear. They burned entire city blocks and executed civilians in public squares. But instead of creating surrender, these acts only made more humans pick up weapons. Every atrocity created 10 new resistance fighters willing to die for revenge. Kixlan found himself commanding an invasion force that was slowly becoming an occupation army. Instead of advancing and conquering new territory, his troops were stuck, defending what they had already taken. Every building could hide a sniper. Every shadow could conceal an ambush. The hunters had become the hunted. 3 months after Vextar's death, the situation had completely reversed. What should have been a quick conquest had turned into a grinding war of attrition. Human fighters were using alien weapons captured in raids. Resistance cells were coordinating attacks across multiple continents. Most importantly, the other species in the Keth Empire were starting to rebel. The shot that killed Vextar had proven that even the mightiest predator could fall to the right weapon in skilled hands. But more than that, it had shown that humans possessed something the aliens had never encountered before. The absolute refusal to surrender their freedom, no matter how hopeless the situation appeared. From his position 3 kilometers away, Tejo had fired more than just a bullet. He had launched a message that echoed across the galaxy. Earth would not go quietly into slavery. Humanity would fight with everything they had until either they were free or every last person was dead. Sometimes one shot really can change the course of history. News of Warlord Vextar's death spread across the Keth Empire like a disease. On distant planets where alien armies had ruled for decades, enslaved populations began whispering about the human who had killed their greatest oppressor. The story grew with each telling. One shot from 3 kilometers away, One human against an entire invasion force. One moment that changed everything. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, the insect-like Zephyrians stopped working in the crystal caves. They had been slaves for 40 years, but now they remembered what freedom felt like. If humans could kill Vextar, then maybe the Keth Empire was not as strong as everyone believed. Secret meetings began in the deep tunnels where alien overseers could not hear. The aquatic hydrants of Europa Station started sabotaging the underwater factories that produced weapons for the alien fleet. They moved through flooded corridors like ghosts, disabling machinery and destroying supply shipments. Their rebellion began the same day they heard about the impossible shot that had felled the most feared commander in the galaxy. Back on Earth, Commander Kixlan was discovering that conquering a planet was much easier than holding it. His forces controlled the major cities, but human resistance fighters owned everything else. Rural areas had become no-go zones where alien patrols disappeared without trace. Mountain regions hid training camps where humans learned to use captured alien weapons. The new ammunition that had killed Vextar was being mass-produced in hidden factories. Dr. Sujin worked with teams of scientists to improve the formula, making it even more deadly to alien physiology. Every bullet represented hope for enslaved worlds across the galaxy. Human chemists had accidentally created the weapon that could free the universe. Tejo found himself training other snipers in techniques that had once seemed impossible. His 3-kilometer shot had inspired desperate soldiers to attempt increasingly bold operations against alien targets. Young fighters, who had never held a rifle before, were making shots that veteran marksmen would have considered miraculous. Desperation was turning ordinary people into extraordinary warriors. The alien hierarchy was fracturing under pressure from multiple rebellions. Different commanders argued about resources and strategy instead of focusing on human resistance. Some wanted to negotiate with Earth governments. Others demanded the complete extermination of all human life. The unity that had made the Empire strong was cracking apart. Intelligence reports showed alien reinforcements being diverted from Earth to deal with uprisings on other worlds. The Zephyrian revolt had shut down 3 major mining operations. Hydran sabotage had destroyed 2 weapons factories. Even species that had been conquered centuries ago were suddenly rediscovering their courage and fighting back against their oppressors. Kixlan realized that his invasion force was becoming an occupation army trapped on a hostile world. Every day brought new attacks on alien positions. Supply convoys needed massive escorts just to deliver basic equipment. High-ranking officers required personal bodyguards because human snipers were targeting commanders with increasing success. The TIE experimental ammunition was proving devastatingly effective against all alien species in the Empire. Human raids captured enough enemy equipment to reverse engineer their technology. Within months, human fighters were using alien plasma weapons powered by captured energy cells. The technological advantage that had made conquest easy was disappearing rapidly. But the most important change was psychological. Humans had proven that their enemies were not invincible gods, but mortal creatures who could be killed with skill and determination. Every successful attack created more resistance fighters. Every alien death inspired 10 humans to pick up weapons. Fear was changing sides in this war. From hidden bases in the mountains, human forces coordinated with resistance movements on other worlds. Communication networks established by Dr. Sujin allowed real-time planning of coordinated strikes across multiple star systems. The shot that had killed one alien commander was becoming a galaxy-wide revolution against the Keth Empire. 3 months after Vextar's assassination, the situation had completely reversed. What began as the conquest of a primitive planet had triggered the largest slave revolt in galactic history. 17 worlds were burning with rebellion. The empire that had seemed unstoppable was suddenly fighting for survival on every front. Tidor's impossible shot from 3 kilometers away had done more than kill one alien. It had awakened something in every enslaved species across the galaxy. The knowledge that freedom was possible if you were willing to fight for it. Sometimes one bullet, fired at exactly the right moment, can bring down an empire that has stood for 1,000 years. 1 year after the assassination, everything had changed. The Keth Empire that had conquered 17 star systems was collapsing from within as enslaved species rose up in coordinated rebellion. The shot that had killed Warlord Vextar 3 kilometers away had become the spark that ignited galactic revolution. No empire, no matter how powerful, could survive when all its subjects decided to fight for freedom at once. Earth was no longer under occupation. The alien forces that remained were trapped in heavily defended compounds, surrounded by hostile human territory. Commander Kixlan had lost contact with half his units, and the others were requesting immediate evacuation. Supply ships from the homeworld had stopped coming because they were being attacked by human fighters using captured alien technology. Teho had become something he never expected, a symbol of resistance known across the galaxy. His impossible shot was carved into monuments on liberated worlds. Children who had never seen Earth knew his name and practiced marksmanship, hoping to follow his example. The young soldier from Sol had accidentally become the most famous human in the universe. The special ammunition designed by Dr. Su-Jin was now being manufactured on 12 different planets. Resistance forces shared the formula freely because every bullet that could kill an alien oppressor was a victory for all enslaved species. Human chemistry had provided the key to unlocking chains that had bound entire civilizations for centuries. On distant worlds, the results were dramatic. The Zephyrians had driven their alien overseers from the crystal mines and were using captured ships to attack other Keth installations. The Hydrants had taken control of Europa Station and were broadcasting messages of freedom to aquatic species throughout the galaxy. Even the peaceful Etherians had learned to fight back against their oppressors. The psychological impact continued, spreading like ripples on a pond. Every successful rebellion inspired others to join the fight. Species that had accepted slavery for generations suddenly remembered what it meant to be free. The impossible shot that had killed their most feared oppressor proved that resistance was not only possible, but could succeed against overwhelming odds. Military analysts across the galaxy studied the 3-kilometer shot that had changed everything. How had one human soldier armed with primitive weapons accomplished what entire starfleets had failed to achieve? The answer was not just superior marksmanship, but the willingness to take an impossible shot when everything depended on it. Sometimes courage matters more than technology. Commander Kixlan filed his final report from a bunker deep beneath the ruins of Sol. The invasion of Earth had failed completely. Human resistance had evolved from desperate survival to coordinated warfare. More importantly, the assassination of Vextar had triggered rebellions on every world in the Empire. The Keth species now faced extinction as their former slaves sought revenge for centuries of oppression. The last alien evacuation ships left Earth 6 months later. Those who remained were either dead or had surrendered to human forces. The planet that was supposed to become a breeding colony for the Empire had instead become the birthplace of galactic liberation. One shot fired by one soldier had freed not just Earth, but 17 star systems full of enslaved peoples. Teho returned to the ruins of his hometown to find a memorial being built where he had made his impossible shot. The inscription was simple, but powerful. One human, one shot. One moment that changed everything. Visitors from across the galaxy came to stand at the spot where a young marksman had fired the bullet that brought down an empire. Dr. Su-Jin established a research center dedicated to developing weapons that could protect newly liberated worlds from future invasions. The formula for alien-killing ammunition was shared freely with all species who wanted to defend their freedom. Knowledge that had been used to save Earth was now helping secure peace across the galaxy. But perhaps the most important legacy was not technological but spiritual. The impossible shot had proven that freedom was worth fighting for no matter how hopeless the situation appeared. Every enslaved being in the universe now knew that liberation was possible if they had the courage to take that first impossible shot at their oppressors. The war was over, but the message lived on. Carved in stone and written in the stars was the story of how one human soldier with one rifle and one perfect shot had changed the destiny of every living creature in the galaxy. Sometimes the smallest action can have the biggest consequences. Sometimes one moment of courage can echo through eternity, inspiring others to fight for what is right. Teho kept his rifle as a reminder of that day when everything changed. 3 kilometers of empty air had stood between humanity and extinction. One bullet had bridged that gap and opened a path to freedom that would never close again. The shot heard around the galaxy would be remembered forever as the moment when the impossible became inevitable.